Hello, everyone. How are you doing tonight? Welcome back to our live stream. We're so glad that you can join us. My name is Roland, and I'll be your host today for I guess this is episode 4 of the Let's Build an App live stream. So yeah, thanks for joining us today. If you are joining us for the first time, please introduce yourself in the chat. I'd love to say hi to you. Tell us a bit about yourself, whether you go to a high school or an elementary school, and if you've ever done coding before. So just let us know. If you're a returning participant and you've joined us before, feel free to leave a message on the chat as well, and I'd love to see you and say hi as well. So all right, so let's get to it for tonight. Let me just switch over here. So I want to talk a little bit about where we're at so far, just to do a quick recap. So as of now, we've built a simple iOS game, and we have the ability to spawn new planes. So this is a plane here. So we have the ability to spawn a new plane, and what it does today is that it just randomly places the planes on the screen. So we can spawn planes, and then also we have the ability to draw a path for the plane. So for example, for this plane here, I can tap on the plane, select the plane, and then I can draw a path for the plane, and then the plane will animate and move across that path. So I can tap on this plane and draw another path for it too. We also have the ability for our code to detect when the planes have collided. So when the two planes touch each other, then they've collided, and in our code we turn the planes red. Okay, so those are what we have so far. Today we're going to add some more capabilities. If you have any questions about how it works so far, just leave a comment in the chat, and I'd be happy to answer your question. Also, if you've downloaded the source code, or if you've installed this build onto your own iOS device and you've been playing around with it and you have any questions about that, please feel free to write a comment on the chat as well. I'd love to answer you. Okay, so this is what we have so far. Oops. Now today we're going to add a few other things. Okay, so today we're going to add what I call beacons. Okay, so here's a beacon there, and let's add a beacon here. So what the beacons are we want them to be the entry points and the exit points for a plane. So rather than spawning a plane right in the middle of the game board, we want to spawn a plane right here, for example. Okay, so what we're pretending is that the borders of our game board, so the top, left, right, and bottom borders across to another airspace that's controlled by another air traffic controller. So we, the player, as an air traffic controller, we control this space here, this board, this rectangular space. And then on top, presumably there's another airspace that's controlled by another air traffic controller to the right, to the left, and to the bottom. Those would be different airspaces controlled by other air traffic controllers. So if the air traffic controller to our right hands off a plane through this beacon, then it'll appear here on this top right beacon of our game board. So when it appears, then it should be moving along in this direction. And then associated with that plane, we're going to give it a destination. So if, let's say, this is beacon A and this is beacon B, then this plane might have a destination of beacon A. So then it's our job as the air traffic controller to guide this plane over to beacon A here. And the way we do that is by drawing a path with our finger and drawing it all the way to its destination path. Okay. So today we're going to add these beacons, these two beacons. We'll add one on the left side, one on the right side. We're also going to add another beacon, which is an airport. So we'll add a beacon here to the middle of our game board. And presumably this would be the airport. So let's say there's a runway here. So let's call this beacon C. So if let's say we had another plane that comes in this over here. So this is a plane. And the destination for this plane is C. That means this plane wants to land at the airport here. So then our job is to guide that plane over to beacon C. Once the plane gets to beacon C, then we're going to say that the pilot can take over and the pilot will safely land this plane onto the runway. Okay. So we've seen here that we can spawn planes out of beacon B, spawn planes out of beacon C, a beacon A here. So beacon A and beacon B, we can spawn planes. We should also be able to spawn planes out of beacon C. So when a plane spawns, auto spawns here, then it should auto spawn onto the runway. And then it should take off on its own. And then it should also have a destination. So in this case, let's say the destination is B. Then our job then is to guide this plane over to beacon B. Okay, so all that while avoiding planes from hitting each other so that we don't want them to collide. All right, so that's kind of our task, and that's what we're going to build today. These beacons and the ability to for the planes to spawn beside the beacons, and also detecting that the plane has reached a beacon. Now there's two possibilities if you think about it, right? So when a plane gets to a beacon, that could be the correct destination. So in this case, beacon B. So this plane reaches beacon B, then that's a point. We want to score a point. However, if let's say the user drew a path to beacon A instead, when this plane reaches beacon A, we should be able to detect that beacon A was not its final destination. Then that won't result in a point, and actually that probably should end the game, right? So the game will end when we have a plane-to-plane collision or a plane reaches an incorrect destination. Okay, then we'll end the game there. Then however many points you've collected, that'll be your final score. Okay, so that's how we're going to be playing this game and running it. So if there's any questions, please feel free to post them on the comments, on the chat. And if you're watching this after the live stream and you do have any questions or thoughts, please post them on the comments for the video. And we do check through the comments and we can respond to you that way too. All right, and then one last thing I want to show you. This one here. So you can download the code from this URL here, this GitHub URL. And if you want to join our beta testing group, which means that you can download our weekly builds onto your own personal iOS device, then send me an email with your Apple ID and I can add you to the beta testers group. And then every week when we push out the new build, you'll be able to download that onto your phone. All right. So without further ado, I guess we can move on. Any thoughts or questions? Please feel free to type them in. I'm going to get set up to start demoing the code. Okay. All right. So if there's no questions, then I'm going to go ahead and start demoing the code. All right. So you should be able to see my screen here. And let me see. I'm going to see if I can put myself. Just give me 1 second here. All right, so I was just trying to get myself into a picture-in-picture here. Just 1 second. Oh, that looks funny. Okay, let's just go back to the screen here. Sorry about that. Okay, so this is our code here. I want to show you a few things. So number one is we have the notion of beacons, right? So I have a class here called beacon, and you can see that there's an enum here called beacon name. So the beacon name, we're going to have initially 5 types of beacons. We have a beacon for the airport, a beacon on the left edge of the game board, a beacon on the right edge of the game board. This is the 2 that we'll implement today. And then at the top and at the bottom, we'll have 2 beacons as well, but we won't implement that today. We'll just start with something simple with 3 beacons, 1 on the left, 1 on the right, and the airport beacon. Okay, so we'll implement those. And then I have a beacon node. So this beacon node is an SK sprite node. So this means that this node is an entity that can exist inside our game board. And this can also interact with the planes, which are also sprite nodes as well. Okay, so I won't go through all of this. You can see the code on your own when you download it. But all right, so that's the beacon node. But the important thing is it needs to be able to interact with the other sprites. So in this case, the planes, so that we know when a plane collides with a beacon, then we can check to see whether it's reached the destination or whether that was the wrong destination. Okay, then we have another class here called the beacon view model. So the beacon view model kind of ties it all together. So it has the property for the beacon node, and then it has a property called a spawn position. So what we want to do is when the system auto spawns a new plane, it needs to be able to spawn it beside the beacon. So we need to know where that position is. So the spawn position will specify where that plane will appear when it's spawned out of this beacon. Okay, some other properties: the width and height of the beacon image itself. Yeah, and that's basically it. All right, so that's the beacon. Now, I did something fancy here. I wanted the beacon to kind of animate. So what I've done here is I've created a number of images. So there's 5 images here. You'll see this first image is just a round blue circle. So that's our beacon. And then beacon 1, beacon 2. It's hard to see in this here, but if you can see, there's a very light, semi-transparent white circle just around outside the beacon. So what I want to do is, between beacon 1, 2, 3, and 4, that circle gets progressively larger. So basically what I'm trying to achieve is a beacon with a white circle that kind of expands underneath it. So it's kind of like a little bit like a pulsating light behind the beacon. So I just want to animate through these 5 images. Okay, so let's run that and I'll show you how that looks. All right, so you can see here beacon A, you can see there's a white circle around it that's kind of pulsating. All right, and the way we've achieved that is by just having 5 images that are played back one after the other, and then in a continuous loop. The first image is just a blue circle, and then the next few images has a white circle that grows progressively larger. And when it gets to the last one, then it repeats again, loops back to the first image. Okay, so these are these 5 images here. All right, and the way we do that, let me show you in the code, is in this code here. So I won't walk you through all this code, but if you download the code, you can see that. I'll just talk about it very quickly. So we have something called a beacon sprite here, and that corresponds to this this folder here, beacon sprite. Okay, and then inside there, there's a number of textures from beacon 00 all the way to beacon 04. So that's what this code does here. And then this code here then animates through all those images. It's called textures here. So a texture here is basically the skin or the image for this node. All right. So this code here basically tells us to animate through each one of these frames, and the time per frame is 0.2 of a second. Okay. So that's what this does, and then the rest is similar to what we have for the planes. We're telling the physics engine how to deal with these beacons, friction, restitution. The important thing here is the mass. So you see the mass is gigantic, 100,000. If we look at a plane node, the mass of a plane node is only 0.1. So what that does is, because the mass of the beacon node is like so many more times larger than the plane, whenever we have a collision between a plane and a beacon, then the beacon won't move effectively. It won't move because it's so much more massive than the plane. And that's what we want. I want my beacons to remain in place, and it's the planes themselves that will move. So that's why I just approximated that by giving the beacon a gigantic mass. And then this last line here just basically gives the beacon a label. So this is the font we're using. The label is the beacon's name. I'm centering it here. The Z position is basically whether this will be in front or behind the beacon. So the beacon is, the default is Z position is 0. So with a Z position of 1, the label will be in front of the beacon. All right, so that's what we have here. We have beacon A for the airport beacon, beacon R for the right beacon, and beacon L for the left beacon. All right. Okay, let's take a look at the code for generating these beacons. So let me go back here. All right. So what I've done here is in the game board view controller, view did appear. This is a system call that's called whenever our view controller appears on screen. So when our view controller appears, we want to tell the game scene to set up the board. Okay, so let's jump to the game scene. And under setup board here, this is where it does the setup. And you can see it does 3 things. It sets up 3 beacons: the left beacon node, the right beacon node, and the airport beacon node. All right, so the left beacon node, it creates a beacon node object. It sets its position by calling this function get beacon position for, and then the name of the beacon. All right, so the right beacon node also calls the same function, but this time the parameter is the beacon right. And the same with the airport, it'll be the position for the beacon airport. Okay, so after we've created that node, we add that node to our scene, to the game scene. So this adds it to the game board. And then we create a beacon view model. We give it the beacon node, the name. And this is the important thing here. We're giving it also a spawn position. Remember, the spawn position is where we want the planes to appear when the system spawns a new plane. All right, so we're telling it, get me the spawn position for the left beacon node with the name beacon left. Okay, and then after that, we add this beacon to our array of beacons, which should be defined down here. All right, so then let's take a look at these 2 functions. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to post it on the chat, or if you're watching this after the live stream, post it on the comments. So let's take a look at get beacon position. Okay, get beacon position here. We're taking 2 parameters, 1 parameter, the beacon name. All right, so what we're doing here is depending on the beacon name, and there's 5 possible beacon names, right? Airport, left, right, top, and bottom. Then what we're doing is we're calculating the minimum and maximum X values and the minimum and maximum Y coordinate values. Okay, so the beacon airport, the minimum X would be 20% of the width from the left side up to 80% of the width to the right side. So basically near the center, between 20 to 80% of the width. Okay, and then the Y position will be, so what we're doing is we're removing the navigation bar height. Remember here, so our total height is from where my arrow is all the way to the bottom. But we have this little space here. This is the navigation bar. So we don't want the beacons to appear behind the navigation bar. So what I'm doing is I'm removing the navigation bar height from the height of the game board. And then I'm going from 20% to the bottom up to 50%. So I don't want to go over 50%. So what I'm saying is I want the airport to appear somewhere here around the 20% mark, all the way up to the 50% mark. And then the left and right boundaries would be the 20% mark up to the 80% mark. Okay, so that calculates the minimum and maximum Y values. For the beacon left and right, I want the X to be almost up against the left edge. And then the beacon right would be almost up against the right edge. And then some random Y value. Okay, so that's what this does. It also, we have code here for the top and bottom, although we're not using that now. Okay, so that's how we calculate this. So if we start this again and we create a new game board, you see that the beacons are now in different places. Left is all the way up here, right? And A is somewhere here between 20 and 50% of the height and 20 and 80% of the width. All right. Okay, so that's how we generate our beacons. Now let's take a look at how we determine a plane's destination, origin and destination. Okay, so let's take a look at the code here. We have a code here for spawning a new plane. Let me find it. Okay, here we go. So here we're spawning a new plane. So what we're doing here is we're creating an origin beacon and a destination beacon, but that's calling get random beacon. So both of them are get random. And if we take a look at our code here, get random beacon just basically goes through all the beacons in our beacon array and then randomly returns one of them. Okay. So as you can see from the code here, because we're calling get random for both origin and destination, it is possible for a beacon to have the same origin and the same destination. All right. So in that case, what we'll do then is that we will just turn the plane around and send it back the same way that it came in. All right. So that's where we get the origin and destination beacons. And then when we create the plane view model, we give it the origin and the destination. All right, so let's run this and let's see how that works. Okay. Actually, it's already running. Okay, so let's spawn a new plane. All right, so this plane you can see is moving up, and over here in our, it's going to go off screen. Let me just move it. Okay, in our debug here, we can see that the origin is airport and the destination is beacon left. Okay, so we want it to go here over to the left. Okay, so I'm just going to redraw the path. All right. Okay, so let's see what happens when it hits the left. Okay, it disappears. All right, let's try something else. Let's spawn another plane. Okay, so this plane here, it spawned, the origin was beacon left, the destination is beacon right. Okay, let's send this over to the airport beacon and let's see what happens. All right, it turns red, so it's collided. So you can see there it handles the two cases differently. If the destination beacon is if it hits the destination beacon, then it disappears, and we should get a point. So we don't have that functionality yet. If it hits a beacon that is not the destination beacon, then it turns red. So basically, that's wrong, and the game should stop. Okay, so let's take a look at that code. So we've shown you here that the plane view model now has the notion of an origin and a destination. So if we take a look at the plane view model, those should be now two new properties. Now, what we want to do then is we want to see when, we want to know when a plane collides with a beacon. Now, because we've made a beacon an SK sprite node, then the system handles collisions for us. So let's take a look at the code here. It should be, yeah, right here. Okay, so this did begin contact is what's called. Okay, so previously we had this code here, first plane and second plane, right? So the contact body A and body B previously would be the two planes. And so then what we would do is we would call the delegate method, our delegate method, basically to inform the view controller that two planes had collided, plane A and plane B had collided. Now that we've added beacons to the picture, it's now possible for one plane to collide with not another plane, but a beacon. So in that case, we're calling a separate delegate method here that tells our view controller that first plane has now collided with a beacon. So not a plane, but a beacon. Okay. And then we have another case here because we have body A and body B in the contact, but there's no guarantee from the system that body A will always, the plane will always be body A. So we could have different permutations. Body A and body B could both be planes. Body A could be a plane, body B could be a beacon, or body A could be a beacon and body B could be a plane. The last combination, body A is a beacon and body B is a beacon, we don't check for that because that's not ever going to happen in our code. Our beacons don't move around. And so once they're set into place, there's no way that two beacons can collide with each other. So we don't have that case here. So, but we do have a case where body A is a beacon and body B is a plane. In that case, we'll call the same delegate method that we called here. It just so happens because the system gave it to us in reverse order. But we're still going to tell the view controller the same thing. All right. So this is how we hook up this notion to our view controller. So let's take a look at our view controller. And that should be, yeah, down here. So you see here we have two functions, both of them named did collide. So it's an overloaded method. But one version is a did collide with two planes. The second version is a did collide with one plane node and one beacon node. Okay, we're using the same name here because they both are very similar in terms of what they represent. The only difference is that the parameters are different. Okay, so this is a common way to address that in object-oriented programming is by overloading the method name. Okay, so we've seen this code before. If two planes collide, both those planes, we're going to set them to is collided, and then we're going to pause the game. Now, here's the new code. Now we have a collision between a plane and a beacon. So what we're going to do here is that we're checking to see if that plane's destination is the same as the beacon that it's collided with. If it is, then we should remove the plane. We don't have that too, but here we should also add a point. Okay, but we don't have that code yet. Otherwise, so this else here would cover the scenario where the plane's destination is not equal to the name for this beacon. So in that case, what we're going to do is we're going to pause the game and we're going to tell the plane that it's collided. So basically the plane turns red. All right, so this code basically handles the demo that I just showed you, those two things. Okay, so let's run that again. So let's spawn a plane. So this plane here, the origin is beacon left and the destination is beacon right. We could send it back to beacon left. And let's see what happens. So when it hits beacon left, our code should check to see if the destination is equal to the name of this beacon. And if it's not, then it'll declare that this plane has collided. All right, so it's turned red and the game has stopped. Okay. All right, so that's detecting collisions between planes and beacons. Next thing I want to show you is, I also showed you that we're clearing a plane when it reaches the destination. So let's let me show you this code here. Game scene remove plane. So what I do here is remove plane. So it does two things. It removes it from our array of planes, and it also removes the plane node from the game board. So we don't want the plane node to be on the game board anymore. So we're going to remove that. And we're also going to remove the plane object from our array of plane objects. Okay, now you also notice that we had something else that we didn't have from last time. And that is, if you notice, if I spawn the plane's automatically moving to the right. So before, let me just stop it here. I'm gonna put it in a loop so it won't disappear. Okay, so before, when we spawned it, number one, the plane would just appear randomly somewhere on the screen. Number two, it would appear and it won't be moving. It's just floating in the air. Okay, so what you see now is that when this was spawned right here, so you'll notice that it spawned to the right of the beacon because that was the spawn position that we've determined, right? So the spawn position that we determined for this, let me show it to you here. So spawn position for beacon based on the name. So what we said here is for beacon left, the spawn position will be to the right of the beacon. So the beacon's position X plus some value, so to the right of the beacon. And what I've done here is I've just calculated just enough space so that the plane is to the right of the beacon but not colliding with it. And then the Y position is the same. Now for the beacon right, it's the opposite. It's to the left of it. And the beacon top is to the bottom of the beacon. Beacon bottom is to the top of the beacon. And the beacon airport is to the top of the beacon, so presumably on the runway. Okay, so let me spawn another plane here. Okay, you'll see this spawned from the airport. So it was above the airport and to the right of it. Oh, it's going to crash. Is it going to catch up and crash? Let's see. Okay. So I forgot where these planes were headed. Okay, the one from the airport was meant to go to beacon left, and the one on beacon left was meant to go to beacon right. So let's move that there. Let's move him here so he doesn't collide, and let's move him to beacon left. All right, so it disappears because it's reached the final destination, and this one disappeared as well. Okay, so that's what we've done there. One last thing I want to show you is that these letters, these labels on top of the beacons, L, A, and R, what we've done here is when we created when we set up our board, when we're creating our beacon, we're passing in the beacon name, beacon left, beacon right, and beacon airport. So in the beacon node itself, that comes in as a name in its constructor or initializer. And this code here basically creates that label. All right, so that's kind of what I wanted to demo today. We can play around with it a bit. So this one, beacon right, you see its destination is beacon right. We said that was possible, right? So what we want to do is we want to turn this plane around and head back the same way, to the same beacon that it came from. Okay, so let's spawn another plane. Oh, this one is going to crash. So let's move him away first. This destination is to the beacon left. So let's move him this way. All right, let's spawn another one. Okay, this one came out of beacon left and it needs to go to the beacon right. All right, let's spawn another one. Oh, this one is wanting to go to the airport. So let's send him to the airport. So it's quite playable now. You can see, of course, our graphics still needs to be improved a lot. We haven't drawn the runway. But you saw that when the plane spawned out of the airport, it spawned to the top of it. So if we had a runway displayed here, then it would look like it started on the runway. Okay. So what other things do we need to do? We need to display a label on the plane itself. So I don't have to look at the debug code here. I should be able to tell from the board here that this plane is meant to go to beacon right. So that's still missing. So we can add that for next week. What else is missing? Let me know if you see something that's missing that you think we should add. Please post it on the comments, and we can have a dialogue about that. Okay, let's spawn another one. So again, this one came out of beacon left, but it should go back to beacon left. So I'm going to turn it around that way. Okay, this is from the beacon right, and it needs to go to the airport. If I send it back to beacon right, then it should collide there, and then that should end the game. Okay, what else do we need to add? So we need to add labels to the planes. We need to improve our graphics. We need to add a runway here. There is one thing that I'd like to add, and that's this. Let me run this again. You'll notice that that planes can come in on the beacon at any time. So right now I'm controlling the spawn. So presumably this should be randomly generated by our code. So it would randomly spawn new planes at any time. And we as the player, we don't know when that'll happen. But it's very possible, for example, you see this plane just appeared here on the beacon left. What if I had a plane that was going to beacon left and I were to spawn another plane like this? Then they would, if it was close enough, it'll collide, right? So what I want to know as a player is I want to have a little bit of an advance notice that a plane is about to appear on this beacon. So that if I have a plane that's heading towards beacon left, and let's say it starts flashing red or something, indicating that the plane is about to enter or appear, then I can then take my plane and maybe have it go around in a circle and come back to beacon left to give the new plane time to come in. Otherwise, if I just let it go, then it will collide like it did here. So that's something that I want to add, some visual indication that a plane is about to appear on a beacon. That way it'll allow me to manage my planes better. So I need to add that. We need to add a game board, a game scoreboard, so that we know how many points we've collected. And yeah, those are the main things. We have the top and bottom beacons that we haven't added yet. So presumably we can make that as a part of the medium level. So remember, when we start off, we have easy, medium, hard, and all three of these right now go to the same board. But presumably we could have three beacons for easy, and then 5 beacons for medium, and then for difficult we can think of something else. Right? So those are the things that are left to do. Any thoughts from the audience? What you'd like to see? Yeah. Any thoughts of what you'd like to see? As I said before, you could download the code here in the GitHub, and you can send me an email with your Apple ID, and I can add you to the beta testing group, and you can install this onto your own iOS device. So yeah, if you have any thoughts on what else we can add to the game, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Anything else? That's all I wanted to show today. So if we're probably going to end early then. Any other thoughts from the audience? Play around. I want to encourage you, play around with the code if you join the beta testing group, and you can install this on your phone, because there's no better way to kind of understand how well something works or how well something doesn't work until you play around with it. So yeah, I'd love to get feedback from you. As beta testers, actually, a beta tester, that's kind of your job, right? Is to kind of give feedback to the developers. So that's a favor that I'm asking from you. If you join as a beta tester, then try things out so that you can let me know how things are working. All right. So I guess if there's nothing else, then that's it for today. Yeah, we're done for today. We're done a bit early, but thanks for joining us. We're really happy to have you join us. Again, feel free to leave feedback on the comments, and yeah, we'll see you next time. That's next week then. Same time next week. Bye bye.